Be kind. It's a phrase that most people would agree with, right? But sometimes those two words end up covering something more complicated than we expect. The focus shifts away from the topic at hand, and suddenly the conversation isn't about the issue anymore, it's about you. Were you wrong for bringing it up in the first place? I mean, kindness matters, but when the be kind becomes a vague rule instead of a real conversation, it can end up prioritizing comfort over understanding. And kindness without curiosity isn't really kindness. It's a way of avoiding. Welcome back. And if you're new here, I'm Elizabeth, founder of Heart on the Rise and an emotional wellness coach. Before we go any further, it's worth acknowledging why this phrase has become so popular in the first place. In a world where conversations can feel tense, polarizing, or exhausting, especially online, reminders about kindness can feel grounding. They offer a simple guideline for how we might treat each other when things get heated. In many ways, that instinct makes sense. It can remind us that there's a human being on the other side of the conversation. The phrase isn't the problem, so what is? Where things start to get complicated is in what people actually mean when they say be kind, because kindness can look very different depending on the person, the culture, or the situation. For some people, kindness means being gentle and agreeable, softening the conversation and avoiding unnecessary conflict. For others, kindness might look like blatant honesty. It might mean naming something difficult, setting a firm boundary, or offering feedback that someone might not enjoy hearing in the moment or even asked for. And neither of those interpretations is automatically wrong. But when we assume that everyone shares the same definition, conversations can start to break down. Another challenge with the phrase be kind is that it can collapse a very complex situation into a very simple rule. When people are in conflict, there are often a lot of layers involved. Different experiences, different levels of harm, and sometimes different power dynamics between the people involved. But when the response becomes just be kind, all of that complexity can get reduced into one exception. Everyone should smooth things over and keep the peace. And when that happens, the conversation can move away from honesty, repair, or accountability and towards just restoring a calm that's just performative. This phrase can create problems in that it can suppress emotions that actually need space. Anger, grief, frustration. These are all normal human responses when something painful or unfair happens. But when the expectation becomes just be kind, these emotions can get pushed aside because they don't look calm or agreeable. And when emotions are dismissed too quickly, the conversations often bypass something really important: understanding what led to them in the first place. The feeling gets treated as the problem instead of being information about what might need attention or care. And this is where the phrase can become especially tricky. When we tell everyone to just be kind, we can end up acting as though all the people in the situation are equally responsible for harmony. But conflict doesn't happen in a vacuum. There can be different levels of harm, different experiences of what happened, and different power dynamics between the people involved. In that kind of situation, a vague call for kindness can place an unfair burden on the person who's already hurting. It can ask them to tone down what they're saying, regulate other people's discomfort, or smooth things over before the issue has actually been understood. And while that may restore a level of comfort on the surface, it can also discount the harm that was done and bypass the harder work of repair, boundaries, or justice. In the end, we end up treating others unkindly in the name of looking kind externally. Underneath a lot of this is another confusion: the idea that if someone feels uncomfortable, then something unkind must have happened. But discomfort isn't the same as doing something wrong. Growth, truth, and accountability can all be uncomfortable and still be deeply kind. One of the risks of turning be kind into a blanket rule is that we start reading tension itself as proof that someone crossed the line, when in reality, the discomfort might be coming from honesty, maybe from a boundary, or from being asked to face something difficult. To be clear, this isn't an argument against kindness. It can lower defensiveness, build trust, prevent unnecessary harm, and make space for more humane experiences. And the pushback makes sense too. Because people are also trying to protect dignity, honesty, and the right to be affected. They're trying to protect relationships from resentment and rupture, and integrity when order comes at too high of a cost. So underneath the disagreement, both sides are trying to protect the same things: safety, humanity, connection, and relief from harm. They're asking the same question in different ways. How do we live together without causing unnecessary harm? So, what do we do with all of this? A small shift you can try is, instead of reaching for just be kind, get more specific. Ask yourself or the other person, what would care actually look like here? What needs protecting right now? The relationship? The truth? A boundary? Repair? Is this a moment for gentleness, or is it a moment for honesty? Because kindness is not the same as politeness or compliance. Kindness can be firm, boundaried, and honest. And if discomfort shows up, that doesn't automatically mean something harmful is happening. So maybe the move isn't just be kind. Maybe the move is be kind with curiosity, honesty, and boundaries. So this isn't really about rejecting kindness. It's about being more honest about what we mean when we ask for it. Because when be kind becomes a blanket rule, it can make conversations look calmer without making them any clearer. When kindness includes honesty, context, and boundaries, it has a much better chance of becoming real care. I'd love to hear how this lands for you. Where do you see this idea hold up in real life? And where does it start to fall apart? What has kindness looked like in the hardest conversations you've had? And when has being kind felt more like pressure to stay quiet? If you're trying to navigate hard conversations with more clarity, more self-trust, and more care, you can learn more about working with me at heartontherise.com. And if you're joining the conversation here, be kind. Disagree like you're talking to a human, meaning tell me what you genuinely think at the very least, with more curiosity than accusation. Let's rise together.